Not yet. We were given one more minute for people to come in, and then we're going to do introductions and start the meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Excuse me.
Yes. No. The Poverty and Homelessness Board of Lane County's all-member meeting for June 17th, 2021. We have an hour and a half meeting, and today we're going to do something a little bit different for the welcome. For everybody who has a seat on the Poverty and Homelessness Board, we're asking for you to introduce yourself and give a one-sentence update regarding to the position that you represent. So I, as chair of the Poverty and Homelessness Board, am sitting in the lived experience seat for adults. And my update is the city of Eugene is working on finding spaces for up to 500 individuals in Lane County in the Eugene area to safely camp. And they're looking to try and do that by fall. And I will ask Noreen Donald, my vice chair, to continue.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Noreen Donald with United Way. I have been serving in the vice chair role for the last year or two. And I just got off a meeting just a few minutes ago presenting to the Florence Chamber of Commerce on the Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed ALICE report, specifically digging into looking at people who are at that poverty level, but also the next level, folks who are just struggling to make ends meet. And I think that's an important piece of information that as we move forward as a county, looking at those who are not just at poverty, but the next level up, those who are struggling to make ends meet, may have a couple of different jobs and still having a difficult time trying to pay for the cost of housing. So thank you. I'm going to pass it then to Rick Kincaid. You're a member of the board?
Thank you, Noreen. Rick Kincaid, him, his medical director for the community health centers and lead the healthcare work group. Our group has been focusing primarily on mobile care into areas in which unhoused people live, and continue to be very excited about several new mobile opportunities that are occurring with several organizations, including HIV Alliance, as well as current services done by Whitebird and a recent HRSA grant that appears that will allow the community health centers of Lane County also to have mobile services. So we're excited about those opportunities to improve care to the homeless population. And if I can just take a moment of privilege, Chris, this will be my last meeting with the Poverty and Homeless Board as a member. I will add it to my position to the applications in the list below. I will be retiring from service at Lane County in August of this year, and largely due to personal reasons, to be close to my daughter in Seattle, who is expecting our first grandchild. So we're super excited. And I've taken a faculty appointment with the University of Washington School of Medicine to teach in their family medicine department. And I'll be leading the equity, diversity, and inclusion work for UW Medicine across King County. So I'm very excited about that opportunity. And again, I want to thank you all for your leadership, your continued commitment to improving the health of the unhoused population. And I look forward to many lessons I've learned, and I will be taking a lot of those to King County. Hopefully we can share in a reciprocal fashion. And again, I applaud you and thank you for all your continued work. Thank you, Chris. And I will pass the baton to Pat Farr.
Dr. Kincaid, thank you. I'll have a lot to say between now and the time you leave us. Their gain is certainly our loss. Much to say about that, Dr. Kincaid, other than a great deal of thanks. Pat Farr, I'm a vice chair of the Board of County Commissioners, which is also the vice chair of the Board of Health. The county commissioners are working not only on the ongoing poverty and homeless related issues, but the two emergencies that we've been struggling through, the Holiday Farm fire and COVID-19, has created an entire new list of not only people in need of housing or in danger of losing housing, but a new list of priorities for the Board of County Commissioners. This coming Tuesday, of note, we will have a presentation on winter strategies. Very timely presentation. It'll be televised, and we'll be talking about ongoing historic winter strategies and identifying needs for this coming winter. So much to talk about. And Dr. Kincaid, far more to say to you than just those few words. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chair. And I'll pass along to Sheriff Harold.
There, Sheriff Cliff Harold, and I serve in the position of the at-large elected official. And I think I'll yield my time to someone else, but I appreciate getting to be a part of this group and listen to all the efforts designed around assisting this population that hopefully we can avoid having in our jail facility by providing other supports for them. So with that, why don't I pass it to Mayor Lucy Venus.
Thank you so much, Sheriff. And Dr. Kincaid, we will miss you. You have been an incredible asset to this community, all the work you have done. So I wish you well. It sounds like a very exciting new chapter in your life. And thank you for all you've done to help us be a healthy and safe community. City of Eugene, Chris mentioned the 500 sleeping sites, both for tents and vehicles, that we're seeking to establish as quickly as possible. I will say on the other side of this, the council also has held a public hearing on our ordinance regulating parking, and this is partly in response, particularly to businesses out in West Eugene that are struggling with a proliferation of RVs and campers, making it both hard for them to do business and creating some serious safety concerns. So it was strongly supported by many people in the community, but also, exposes us to this very real challenge of, are we adding another level of trauma to people who already have no place to go? And so this very challenging balancing act between keeping neighborhoods safe, maintaining sanitation, and being able to sort of clean those streets, and make sure everything is okay, and still requiring people to move along every 72 hours to another establishing that. So I'm interested in people's insights on that. It's coming to council vote. And then on the other positive side, we have forward with to get to closer deal points on a new multi-unit housing at 1059 Willamette, which is the site of the LCDC building. And so very excited, 129 units, 56 units will be affordable housing, 80% AMI and below. And the provider there is Cornerstone Community Housing, working with those 66 units. The other 63 units will be market rate unit, and tenant units are reserved for domestic violence survivors through Women's Space. So we're very excited about moving forward on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Is Springfield elected present?
That's me. I'm the super sub. I'm Corey Rodley. My pronouns are she, her. And I represent Ward 3 on the Springfield City Council.
Thank you, Corey, for being here. Let's see her members. Brittany Quick Warner.
Good afternoon. Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Quick Warner. I am the president and CEO at the Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce. I guess an update, we've been involved in several of the conversations that have been mentioned previously. We have been sitting, I myself personally sitting on the committee with Lane County and city staff looking for possible locations for the safe sleep sites, to find places just like Mayor Venice to actually provide safe spots for folks in RVs or cars and also in tents. We adamantly believe that we have to attack I guess supporting individuals from both sides, and feel like we need to make sure we have safe spaces for people to sleep, and that means getting the private business community involved in that conversation. So we've been really active in the outreach with businesses and private property owners, and recruiting folks to provide those opportunities for people to be. We also are very supportive of the parking ordinance updates, because we know that there is a tremendous just amount of issues that folks are facing all over the community. So happy to provide more information on that if folks need. We're also digging in just deeper on the bigger picture conversation. I know I've had a lot of one-on-ones with many of you, and we're happy to be at the table. So thanks.
Thank you, Brittany. Mr. Heveland.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Dave Haberland with the Department of Veterans Affairs. I'm the Community Employment Coordinator, and I'm also the Employment Work Group Chair. My sentence is, I work with a talented group of social workers, support assistants, and peers that assist homeless veterans attain housing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Julie Wiseman.
Hi, Julie Wiesman, Women's Space, she, her, hers. I guess our update is we have acquired a new shelter, so we're very excited about it. So we take ownership at the end of the month, and we'll be expanding or hoping to have some increase of capacity over the summer. So that's really exciting for us. Given this COVID pandemic, it's really nice to know that we're going to have some spaces that are going to be really nice. And one of the nice things about it is the space is going to allow us to create a pet environment so that survivors can bring their pets with them and not be faced with the choice of that horrible decision. And so that's our best update at the moment.
Thank you, and sorry for mispronouncing your last name. Aaron Box. Mr. Box?
Aaron put his message in the chat. He is a faith-based representative. He's currently working to support new proposed sleeping sites, specifically involved in the Common Street rest stop site. And he has limited connectivity, so he couldn't share that verbally. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you for that. Cindy Perry.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Cindy Perry. I'm the Director of Workforce Investments with Lane Workforce Partnership. Our focus is on, of course, workforce development for Lane County. I also sit on the Employment Subcommittee of the Poverty and Homelessness Board, working with Dave Heverland. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Foster Martinez.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Foster Martinez. I'm the Housing Director here at St. Vincent de Paul. I have stepped into Ann Williams' position for almost a year now, and excited to report that we are transitioning all of our veteran services to the Lamb building off West 11th next month with housing, employment, and financial literacy for our unstably housed veterans. Meanwhile, working on the property acquisition deal. We're looking to purchase Grace Manor to expand our capacity for transitional housing for our veterans. And at this time, we are also all eyes on Stockton, California. There was a fire Sunday night, and our mattress recycling plant was affected. So we are all hands on deck over here at St. Vincent de Paul. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and sorry for that loss. Debbie Farr.
Hi, everybody. Debbie Farr. I'm the Community Relations Manager for Trillium Community Health Plan. We are one of the CCOs in Lane County. And one of the things that we're working on right now is preparing to submit the most recent Community Health Improvement Plan. And the priorities here definitely relate to the work of the Poverty and Homelessness Board. The first priority is to ensure incomes are sufficient to meet basic costs of living, housing, childcare, food, transportation, etc. Establish community conditions that support behavioral health and physical well-being, and address current historical injustices that produce disparities. And that's with a special focus on racial and social justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Jacob Fox.
Hey everybody, Jacob Fox, Executive Director with Homes for Good. Well, we do a lot of work, different types of work in the community. I would say for this group, our work in developing permanent supportive housing is active. The Commons on MLK is presenting some challenges right now. The good thing is that we're working closely with Lane County Shelter Care, City of Eugene Police Department, and there's just a lot of just support and attention being given to the residents at the Commons on MLK. We have the Keystone, which is on 13th and Tyler, that's going to serve families experiencing chronic homelessness. We believe that development will be complete in August. And we just broke ground on the Nell, which is 1100 Charmelton, and that'll be 45 units of permanent supportive housing that we will deliver to the community next summer. So we're just excited to be engaged with the community. And Chris, I'll let you pass it to the next person.
Thanks, sir. Sheila Wegener.
Good afternoon, Sheila Wegner. I'm District Manager for Oregon Department of Human Services in Lane County, which is child welfare and self-sufficiency programs. So we have a lot of work that we could do with this committee, specifically around the SNAP program and childcare, cash assistance, Medicaid, etc. And then, of course, on the agenda today, Youth Homeless Demonstration Project, etc. We are currently really trying to actively look at ways to get more into our community to deliver services. So hopefully I'll be talking with different groups as we move forward so we can figure out where we can be serving people where they need to be served instead of necessarily coming to our offices. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, sorry for mispronouncing last names. Matthias Smith wraps up our introductions. Mr. Smith.
I'm Matthias Smith. I am the homeless youth representative, and I'm currently working on or helping with the YHDP grant.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for both introducing yourselves and entertaining this process. A lot of folks don't know what we do on the Poverty and Homelessness Board or why members are here. And so I wanted to share with the public and reintegrate our newer members with what everybody does and what each piece that we do is trying to do. We have a lot of staffers and community partners who come in and watch this and participate or present. And so with that in mind, I would like to move through our agenda real quick. Can I get a motion to approve our minutes for April 15, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
So that was moved by Noreen, seconded by Rick. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 If there's any opposed, please say so now by saying no. Hearing none, the ayes carry. Motion approves for the minutes. Thank you, Alex, for moving the slide to the presentation. We are going to go into the shelter and housing options for youth 11 to 17 and the youth demonstration overview. Matthias and Megan.
Hi everyone, this is Alex Dreer with Lane County. I actually am going to start this presentation by reviewing the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program grant opportunity. And I will pull it up. So this has been released by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's to support and develop a coordinated community approach to preventing and ending youth homelessness and sharing that experience with other communities across the nation. When we talk about youth, this grant opportunity is specific for youth who are age 24 or under. There's $145 million available that was appropriated by Congress from fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20. The minimum grant award is $1 million with a maximum of $15 million. The grant award is determined by your population size. 50 communities will be awarded, and any community that's already received a Youth Homeless Demonstration Program grant will not be eligible. So our odds are pretty good. We scored really well the last two times we applied. So I'm just going to review this. This was emailed to you and will be in the notes. The application, we are working to apply for this. Our leads are Matthias Smith, our homeless youth representative. We also are assisted by members of our Youth Action Council. The 15th Night Youth Action Council is the Continuum of Care Youth Action Council as well. So we've got a core team, including Michaela Elliott, who worked with us on our first YHDP grant application. So I'm really excited to have our veteran youth work with us on this application. We are applying to be selected as a community. We're not saying which projects we would do, but just saying we're a community, we have youth involvement, and we're ready to address youth homelessness with this funding. Please give it to us. That's what our application is. The application's due July 27th, and upon notification, we would have up to 6 months with technical assistance to create a coordinated community plan that would be driven by youth, but of course assisted with the community and the PHB about how we want to, what projects we want to fund and try out for the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program. And I'm just going to show you, this is the rating factor and how we scored last time. We scored almost perfect in our 2018 application, except for the youth collaboration section. We were not able to as clearly articulate how much youth collaboration we have. And this year, youth collaboration is worth a quarter of all our points. So that's where we're focusing our efforts in our grant application. And we have been in touch with the Clackamas County Youth Homeless Demonstration Program award recipients, and we're going to talk to them about what they did and how their program's going. So I do need a motion to approve applying for this, and also approve applying for all of Lane County as our geographic area.
So moved.
I'll second.
A second. That was Debbie Farr seconding.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion needed for this item before we kick into a vote? Please signify by raising your hand if you need discussion. Noreen.
Yeah, I'm excited that we, maybe the third time's a charm, right? We know issues. I know that Matthias and Megan have put together some significant information about the number of unhoused youth in our community. How can we, as PHB members, what can we do to provide a level of support to get us to that win category? And as you say, Alex, please give us the money, however you said that, which I thought was just funny, and I love it. But what can we do to strengthen this application?
Well, if you are interested, you can review our grant narrative when we have our first draft. So I'll make a note. If you're interested, put that in the chat and I will send the draft to you.
Thank you, Noreen, for that. Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Chair McAllister. Megan, hello, good to see you. Been a little while. Just a question, and I don't need an answer to this right now, perhaps a follow-up in writing, but locally we have, of course, 15th Night is doing stellar work. We also have Looking Glass, which has in excess of 700 employees who are working directly in youth services, including homelessness. Can you describe how Looking Glass is being involved in this?
Looking Glass has a representative, a member of our Youth Homeless Solutions Work Group. And so from the Youth Homeless Solutions Work Group, we have a core grant writing team working on this. Someone from Looking Glass is not on that this time around, but the Youth Homeless Solutions Work Group is also part of this process. And then we've also talked to Looking Glass about, they have a new Youth Action Council that has a fun new name. I forgot what it is, but we might work with their youth as well for the application.
Thank you, Alex. That's a great response. And if youth collaboration is getting a 25% of the weight in this application process, certainly Looking Glass has a long history of youth collaboration.
Excellent. Any other comments before we move for the vote? Seeing none, I just want to say that this type of work is very important. And as a former homeless youth who was able to get off the streets through a program and shelter options that coincided together. I'm really excited about the prospects for this. With that in mind, I'd like to ask all in favor, please signify by saying aye or yes to submitting for this grant.
Aye.
Aye.
Any saying no, please do so now. Hearing no no's, the motion carries, and do as you need, Ms. Alex, with this grant. Please report back as things progress.
Thank you.
Should I just get started?
Yes, now I want to introduce Megan Schultz and Matthias Smith. Megan is from 15th Night, and they presented this to the Youth Homeless Solutions Work Group. This is evidence of the continued work to address youth homelessness that 15th Night and community partners are working on. So they're here to present this information to you today.
Thanks for the introduction, Alex, and thanks for having us on your agenda today. We really appreciate it. Just for those of you who don't know, 15th Night is a youth-informed community effort to address youth homelessness in the Eugene Springfield area. Our focus is unaccompanied students that have been identified by 4J, Bethel, and Springfield school districts. As mentioned, we have a very strong Youth Action Council, but we also are a network of over 40 agencies that have come together to really try and address the barriers that students who are navigating homelessness.
I'm trying to join a Zoom meeting on the homeless. The county's put it on.
Sorry, I just heard something and I was like, am I supposed to be talking or not? Okay. Anyway, so we have the Youth Action Council. We have a large network of agencies and organizations, including Looking Glass, who are working really hard to identify and address barriers that students who are navigating homelessness, who are trying to access resources and services, remove those things. Most people know the 15th Night for our Rapid Access Network, which is a technology that's used to help organizations that are working with youth, including schools, to connect students to resources and services in real time via text message and email. So we have a community RAN, but we are also putting RAN technology into all of our high schools in those school districts that I just mentioned. So as I mentioned, 15th Night's focus is to understand barriers and try and figure out ways to address needs. And so this year we focused on shelter and housing, which is the biggest need that we have for youth in our community who are navigating homelessness. And so I turn this over to Matthias to go over the findings.
So I'm going to be going over this infographic shared on the screen. It's open in a different tab for me, so it might be a little different. But it's we have a 35-member task force that developed this, and it was for youth ages 11 to 17, unhoused youth. The result of the plan is to help guide the community to a new path, building sustainable resources to ensure runaway and homeless youth have access to shelter and housing programs and support services for their parents or guardians. Some of the pathways we found for youth that were experiencing homelessness is family discord, chronic homelessness, financial instability, values and beliefs not aligning with their parents, substance abuse, sexual orientation. Some of the barriers to accessing resources that we found were the parents don't know where to get help, shame, and haven't found help when they reached out. And for the youth, it's not all the services are self-centered or youth-centered, I mean. There's peer influence among youth. They don't know where to get help a lot of the time, and there's shame and fear when accessing as a young person. Options for it, for dealing with it is prevention, stabilization of home placement if safe, respite and to move youth to a stable housing within 30 days. That assumes students have access to prevention services and are in need of housing, and transitional with the goal of stable housing, supportive services to help with transition to adulthood. Some of the highlights of this document that we worked on is the host home program. It's the most cost-effective way to serve more youth. Peer support services such as peer support specialists, so youth are more comfortable talking and dealing with people. Youth support center, which is youth can go there and relax, get any of the resources they need, or the resources can come to them. Would include a 24/7 phone line that youth or parents and guardians can access by calling and texting with no appointment necessary. And investing outcomes. Oregon has the #1 highest rate of youth homelessness in the U.S. with the second highest rate of unaccompanied youth in the country. Yes. And there were 3,700, yes? 3,700 unaccompanied homeless youth in Oregon between 2018 and 2019. And there's a 54% graduation rate for homeless students, and twice as likely to not finish high school or get a job. That's the end of what I have to say.
Well, thank you for that, Mr. Smith. Is now Megan, are you coming back in?
Yep, I'm back in. Thank you. I just also want to add to what Matthias said that all of this work, yes, we had a 35-member task force, but all this work, we continually took information and sought input from youth, from Looking Glass, Hosea, our own Youth Action Council, any organization that may be working with students who are navigating homelessness. So we did our best to ensure that there was a strong youth voice component to coming up with not only the findings of this report, but the recommendations of this report. And in addition, I think a thing that surprised the task force was, we were looking, is this idea of shelter diversion or prevention? When we started the work, that wasn't even, I think, on the table. Nobody was thinking about it. But as we started talking with youth and providers and families, we realized we need to figure out, how do we support youth and families before that youth needs emergency shelter? So before they're accessing homeless and runaway services, what can we do? So some of our key findings and recommendations really have to do with shelter diversion / prevention. Alex, do you mind switching to the shelter housing graphic? So we did a lot of work around identifying the different types of shelter and housing and coming up with agreed upon definitions of those. And then we went and looked at who in our community is already doing this type of work. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but for example, under the prevention shelter diversion, there is a strong recommendation towards the expansion and support of youth peer support services and family support specialists. And we have organizations that are already providing those things: Looking Glass, Youth Era, Centro, Direction Service. They already have that type of programming. So we want to ensure that we are stabilizing what they already have, but increasing the capacity of that. So I don't think I can scroll. Can I scroll, Alex, or can you scroll? Okay. So, we're looking at what do we have and where are the gaps and how would we fill those gaps? And so you have this document in your agenda. So you've already seen this, but so we're looking at where are the gaps and then how would we fill those gaps? So I think we did a really good job of, as that task force, identifying the needs, mapping out the existing resources, and then identifying what do we need to do to fill those gaps. So basically, what we're recommending and what we're seeking help for, not just from the Poverty and Homelessness Board, not just from the county commissioners, not just from the city council, but from our entire community, is how do we help recruit for host homes? So we know that host homes is the most cost-effective way and supportive way to provide either emergency or longer-term housing for students who are experiencing homelessness. And so we're really looking to the community to help find host homes. So we need help. When I say we, I mean this, task force. We need help recruiting for host homes. We also need to ensure that there's stable funding for our existing resources and services. So with the school buildings closed, we really honestly don't know where all these students are at right this moment. And we are anticipating next fall, as school buildings are fully open, that there's going to be a lot of needs. And so we have to ensure that our existing programs are shored up and stabilized and ready for, a lot of students needing their help. So we want to ensure that there is stabilized funding for our existing programs. We want to see funding for expansion of peer support services, funding for the 24-hour youth center, and funding for the new low barrier youth shelter that would be filling a gap in our community. So that's really what we're asking our community. So our task force that we have and champions out there are taking this, and our network of providers are taking this report out and trying to find those things. Help with recruitment, support, ensuring our existing programs are well funded, and then finding funding for the programs that we need to fill the gaps. And I'll turn it back over to Matthias.
So, okay. We are specifically asking the PHB to support the 11 to 17 Housing Task Force findings by recommending that the county commissioners help address the funding gap for existing youth shelter housing programs at St. Vinny's and Looking Glass.
So these are two programs. These are two agencies that provide critical services for our youth, and we really need to ensure that they have the funding they need to be at full capacity heading into the fall. And so we're really as Matthias said, we are really asking the PHB to move this forward to the county commissioners to ensure, to work with those two agencies to make sure that they are fully funded and ready to go for this increased need that we anticipate to see in as schools open up in the fall. So that's it. I won't say anymore.
Megan, can I ask a question? Chair Chris, can I ask a question? So do we know, Megan, what the actual, a rough approximation of what the shortfall is or could or will be?
So as we mentioned in the report, is like we don't have all the answers to, there's still unanswered questions, but we need to start moving forward with something. And so what we would say is we want people to reach out to St. Vincent de Paul and Looking Glass to understand what those funding gaps are for them.
Excellent. Are there other questions for Ms. Schultz or Mr. Smith on this topic? Oh, yes, Mayor Dennis.
Yeah, first of all, I really just want to thank you for this work, which is very revealing and very distressing. And appreciate your focus on this. And this is not addressing your request for funding from the Board of Commissioners, but just a question around the sort of prevention. Do you have insights about why Oregon has this, the highest rate of youth homelessness in the state? And, as we're looking at prevention, does that understanding why we have so many help identify what kind of dots for me on that?
I don't have answers to why why Oregon. What we learned from our report is that many times families are in distress, and that distress hits a critical point, and then we have a kid that's all of a sudden needing emergency placement or emergency shelter. And right now in our community, we only have 12 beds at Station 7. That's not enough. And so this whole discussion about shelter diversion was about how can we best support families when they're in crisis, and youth when they're in crisis. And the recommendation was that was through peer support services and family support services that were available 24/7, which they are not right now. But available 24/7, and that some of them be located in schools so that families and youth have access quickly to that type of support.
Yes, Corey.
Thank you, Chair Chris. I like that, Chair Chris. So Corey Rodley, City of Springfield. I really appreciated earlier in the report where you were sort of calling out some of the specific populations of youth homelessness. And just to kind of piggyback onto what Mayor Vennis said around prevention, one of the highest populations of youth who are unhoused are our LGBTQ+ youth. And I'm looking at the types of shelter and the programs. And so I'm curious as to, specifically on both the prevention and the response side, what kind of initiatives and efforts are going to specifically address that population, because it's such a high population. And I know that we're getting to systemic stuff, which is something that I'm very interested in, as opposed to as opposed to the sort of focus on crisis response. So I'm curious as to, who are those partners and what kind of work is being done to keep our LGBTQ kids, safe or in their homes, or support those families.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that there's a large percentage of youth who are experiencing homelessness who identify as LGBTQ. And a lot, or not a lot, but most of our youth service providing agencies have programs specifically to support youth who identify. So I think the youth organizations that you see listed have really done a good job of providing more services to that population. This particular work was really focused on shelter and housing, and not really about anything else, except that the whole shelter diversion came up. And our best recommendation for parents was to have the family support specialists. And so those are people who may have experienced their son or daughter identifying as LGBTQ, and so that they could then connect with other parents who are just learning of this and help support them. So the recommendations are really strong on peer support services, people with lived experience that can stand alongside families or youth who are navigating different things such as that. And so we really the housing, this task force really believes that's where we should be putting our focus.
So, Chair Chris, I have a question. This is Debbie Farr.
One moment, Ms. Farr. Brittany Cook Warner, then Debbie Farr, and we have 2 minutes before we have to move on our agenda. So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Megan, I know you and I have connected on this a few different times, and I talked at length with John Reese about it last week as well. And I just want to, I guess, mention my support specifically for the host homes program and piece of this. And I think that's an opportunity or a place where the chamber can help connect the private business community and just the community at large to that opportunity and that resource. And we want to be a support in getting the word out about that. And I think there's some really interesting synergies there, which I know that we talked about too, about the Home Share Oregon program that's, kind of being launched at a state level too. So anyways, want to be supportive of this and continue the conversation, but specifically that host homes piece, I feel like bringing the private sector in could be a good way for them to be supportive here.
Thank you, Brittany. Miss Debbie Farr.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, Megan. Sorry you can't see me.
Okay.
I wasn't able to get into the go-to meeting, so I actually had to call in on my phone. So anyway, great to see you. And I love what you said about having these family or peer-delivered services available in schools. I think that's critical, but we are 24/7. So how would you fill that gap?
Yeah, we're suggesting that some of the organizations have 24/7 staff available. So, working, if you can, I don't know if you can still see, but the Looking Glass, Uthera, Centro, Direction Service already have peer support and family support services. So if we could increase their funding, they could identify some of those staff to be available 24/7, because you're right, the crisis can happen at any time.
Right. Okay, that's helpful. Thanks, Megan.
Mayor Venice?
Yes, thank you. Just before we put this to a vote, I just have a clarifying question. So when we vote, we are voting to forward these recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. Yes. But we're not attaching, there's no dollar amount associated with this. So you're not estimating what is actually needed. You're asking us to say, send this to the Board of Commissioners for them to dive into what these two agencies really need in order to provide these services. Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
So thank you, everybody who asked these questions, brought up these points. I'm sure we could have hours of exploration on this. And so I'd like to get clarification of the ask, just the wording of the ask, and then I'd like to get a motion to move it.
Yeah, so Mayor Venice, I think, said it well, but we're asking that the PHB forward these recommendations on to the county commissioners, and ask the county commissioners to work with St. Vincent de Paul and Looking Glass, specifically around the youth house and Station 7 and Looking Glass's transitional living programs, to really understand what are the funding gaps for those agencies to be running at capacity.
Thank you, Megan. May I get a motion?
Chris, I'll be happy to make the motion.
And I'll second it.
Let's see if I get this right. I'm making the motion to forward the recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners and ask them to work with St. Vincent de Paul and Looking Glass to understand the funding gap for crisis housing services for youth. Did I get that right, Megan?
The very last part would just be, because the youth house is not a crisis, it's really about transitional housing.
All right, then I'll add an amendment to understand the funding gap for transitional housing for youth.
Can I get a second? Mayor Dennis, I believe, seconded it. Mayor Dennis, you seconded it?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. All in favor as worded, please signify by saying, yes, Commissioner Farr.
Briefly, this is sent to the Board of County Commissioners. I will make sure that it's heard at the Human Services Commission also. Poverty and Homelessness Board is a multi-jurisdictional committee. Human Services Commission is an intergovernmental committee. At some point in the future, we all know that this committee should and will consider becoming an intergovernmental committee, which would therefore be sending this recommendation not only to the Board of County Commissioners, but also to the City of Springfield and the City of Eugene. That's just for the future. But I wanted to point that out right now. This is a very good time to understand the significance of this being multi-jurisdictional as opposed to intergovernmental.
Thank you, Commissioner Farr. With that item, I'd like to ask that all in favor for this motion as spoken by Debbie Farr and seconded by Mayor Venice, please signify by saying aye.
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 If there are any nays, please signify by saying nay at this time. Hearing none, motion passes for the recommendation. Thank you both to the committee and the presenters for coming and sharing it with us today.
Thank you.
And please let us know later on how this is going. So next on our agenda, we have a couple quick updates. Continuum of Care with Amanda Borda.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm just gonna have a couple of quick updates because I know we are a little bit short on time. I just wanted to give some updates from the Continuum of Care side of things as the Continuum of Care board. So we're working on a couple of things related to the Continuum of Care application process that we complete annually for our funding. That application process did not happen last year due to COVID-19. They sort of moved our renewals forward, but this year we have every indication that we will have a COC competition. HUD has indicated that they are moving forward with that process as much as possible. And so we have received our grant inventory worksheet, which is our GIW, and that process is really just us as a COC confirming our grants that will be applying for renewal through the upcoming process. And so it's super important to make sure that all of our grants are represented correctly on that. It's just generally a spreadsheet, but it's very important that we make sure our grants are represented on that spreadsheet so that we can apply for them for the upcoming competition. So I just wanted to update you all today that we did receive that. They only give us about a week to do that. So we did submit that back to HUD with the corrections. We had a number of amendments and changes to submit on that. And we consulted with our co-applicants, Homes for Good and St. Vincent de Paul, to confirm their grants as well. So we have submitted that to HUD, and that process is now being reviewed by our local HUD field office, and they will confirm that by the end of July. And so once that process is done, we anticipate generally any time after the GIW that we can receive a notice of funding availability. So we anticipate that might happen anytime at the end of July or beyond. So that's sort of what we're planning around at this moment. And I'll keep you posted if I hear anything else. The other update I have is that through the RFP Eval HMIS committee of this board, we have approved a COC evaluation process for this year, and we are moving forward with that process currently. That process we complete prior to our competition as well to ensure that we have evaluated all of our projects and that we have information available so that we can conduct a ranking of our projects when we are required to do that through the competition. So we've changed it significantly this year through the committee. We've really reduced it in order to sort of remove the burden on providers to completing that process. They typically have to submit significant attachments and information to Lane County for us to complete that evaluation. So this year we've really pared it down and changed up the process a little bit. The providers submitted an intent to renew form with just some basic information in it around their project and sort of the threshold questions for their minimum expectations that we have for funding. So they answered those questions and submitted that form. We did receive one from each project. And now the next process is for Lane County to run an evaluation report that covers their project performance outcomes, and that's typically the biggest part of their score. And then we're also going to use just some internal information and other database information that we have to complete the rest of the application on behalf of providers. So we've really taken off that, that task from them and just pared it down to what we can review from our data. And it's really going to be mostly heavily focused on project performance, as that's really the emphasis from HUD and what we get scored the most on. So that was approved through the RFP eval HMIS committee and is out right now to providers and will be concluded again by the end of July, about the same time as the GIW is finalized. So we will be hopefully ready to go whenever a COC NOFA gets released. Are there any questions about any of that? Just a couple of quick updates to make sure you all are informed about where we are in the process.
Well, thank you very much for that update, Amanda. I'm looking to see if I have any hands raised. Does not appear that we do. Anybody that does have questions that pop up, please feel free to reach out to Amanda for further clarification, or to myself, and we'll have it at our next meeting. Next, we have emergency housing vouchers MOU with Danielle.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, can everyone hear me okay? Great. Okay. So I'm here today, and we have Beth Oakes also from Homes for Good. So Beth, please chime in at any point, as well as Amanda or James on this. So we're here today because we want to present an overview on the Emergency Housing Program, Voucher Program, or EHV, and we will need a motion at the end of this to approve to move forward. Particularly want to talk about the priority populations that we're proposing, and then also some changes to our coordinate entry system. So keeping that in mind, and so just a little bit of background. The EHV program was made available through the American Rescue Plan with HUD, providing 70,000 housing choice vouchers to local public housing authorities. And so there's 178 have been allocated to Homes for Good. And we have understand is that we have to use those vouchers, get them leased up by November 1st of this year. It's really intended to assist clients who provide housing assistance to people who are unhoused, they're at risk of homelessness, those who are fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking, or those who are recently homeless or having high risk of housing stability, so such as those who are in our rapid rehousing programs or home TBA programs. One of the unique parts of this is that it really brings together the housing authority and the continuum of care, and where all of the referrals have to go through the coordinate entry system. So we've been working really hard, Beth and I and others, very quickly to get this up and going, given the tight deadline, but it is a great opportunity to serve lots of our shared clients. Some of the services provided through this program, so as I mentioned, it has to go through coordinate entry. So Lane County will be sending referrals over to Homes for Good. We will have to verify both housing status and making sure people meet the housing eligibility. And then Homes for Good will be providing housing search assistance for eligible households, and they will also do some additional verification around eligibility for clients. There's some financial assistance available for application fees, deposits, utility hookups, things like that. And then Homes for Good will also provide counseling on compliance with rental lease requirements. The one thing I will share about this program is that it is a rental assistance. It doesn't come with any ongoing case management. We did present this project to service providers at a provider forum, as well as League, to get folks with lived experience feedback on this. And we're hoping to get some case management tied to do more ongoing, but at this time, service providers don't have capacity to take that on, so we'll continue to reach out and figure out if there are ways that we could provide, but as of now, there will not be ongoing case management. Let's see, the target population. So we'll talk about it in two ways. There's the eligible populations for the program, and then there's the priority populations that we're proposing who meet that eligibility. So to be eligible, first they have to be homeless, so literally homeless. I think we're all familiar with that. And then also at risk of homelessness, they could be fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking. Or it could be folks who are recently homeless and for whom providing rental assistance will prevent the family's homelessness or having high risk of housing instability. So at minimum, they have to meet one of those categories. And then we've come up with priority populations as we anticipate we're going to get lots of applications, and knowing that we have a tight timeline for Homes for Good to get these vouchers leased up. We're proposing the first priority population will be individuals or families who are currently enrolled in our rapid rehousing or home TBA program and who are at risk of housing instability. And one of the reasons why we're proposing this as a first, these are people who are already in housing, and it's shorter term rent assistance. And we believe with the additional support, they can continue essentially transition in place and stay in their unit. And they're working with a case manager. So there could be some limited case management after for some time. I think it's after 6 months. Amanda can talk more about that but more eloquently than I can there. And that also creates more flow within our system for people to get rapid rehousing. So the next priority population would be individuals or families fleeing DV, sexual assault. And then the third one would be individuals or families at risk of homelessness. And then the fourth one, which had originally been closer to the top of our priority population, were individuals or families who are in our rapid rehousing program, but not yet housed. And the reason why we had to move that down is because we don't have that ongoing case management available to folks. So we want to be able to give them the services that they are screened for. So that's why we had to move that around. Let's see. The other piece of this, so this all has to go through our coordinated entry system. You might be familiar with our front door assessment process, and people get on our center wait list and then they get referred to a housing program. We're proposing some changes to that. We will still have a centralized system. So we're proposing this cognito form similar to what we've done with rental applications for rent assistance program, where people can apply online or service provider can help the client apply online. And then Homes for Good is also setting up their phone line available where people can actually submit those applications over the phone with the partner, with Homes for Good. So there wouldn't be the full front door assessment. And also because we're including that at-risk population, we don't have that set up in our coordinated entry system currently. So we have to be a little bit more flexible with this, and we anticipate really high call volume when this goes out. So this change also requires approval from you all, and that's why we're presenting it to you. Okay, sort of the next step with this, for one, is present to you all today to get approval to move forward. We have a MOU agreement with Homes for Good to work on this project together, and we've outlined some of our roles and responsibilities, where Lane County's responsibility for the Cognito app and getting the referrals over to Homes for Good, and Homes for Good doing the housing search and follow up there, and making that changes to our coordinated entry system. So we're hoping to do that today. And then the application would be open to rapid rehousing and home TBA clients starting June 29th, just around the corner. And then the application would go out to the general public July 13th. And then, of course, those vouchers need to be fully leased up by November 1st. So, that was a lot of information in a short time. We still have lots of work to do in between then, but for now, I guess my ask is to get approval to move forward.
Okay, thank you very much. I am going to step in here because Chair McAllister has to take care of an important constituent. So are there any questions or need for clarification before we ask for a motion.
Hi, this is Beth. I just wanted to make one point of clarification on the vouchers. For their lease update, HUD has put out a request for us to work to have them leased up by that November deadline noticed in the presentation, but there is flexibility beyond that date to continue to lease up if we don't meet that initial deadline. But HUD has put forward a request to the COCs and the PHAs to get the vouchers into the community as fast as possible, which is where that November date has originated from.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Thanks, Mayor.
Brittany, go for it.
I'm just curious, in the current coordinated entry system, how many, I mean, I don't know if you know, but like how many folks are already kind of categorized in these areas that would be like on an immediate list? I'm just wondering, because it says they're opening up to the public, but my assumption is that there's already far more than 178 people into a system that we've already got that is eligible for this. I'm just curious.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So the group in the first group that we've identified, folks who are in the rapid rehousing, it's around 140 people. So we're going to actually do a soft launch with them first before it opens up to the general public. But we do anticipate there's going to be those who may not end up being eligible for the voucher or may not be in that place. Does that answer your question, Brittany?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
I actually do have a follow-up question for that. I appreciate the strategy of focusing on those folks that are already in the programs, and it worries me that there's a lack of funding for case management for folks. I'm a little worried about, this was when we did the TAC report, this was the issue is people access services and then they fall through because there isn't enough support for them to retain it. So I don't know if you have any way of can address that concern. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Amanda, go ahead. I do want to add, and thank you, Alex, to note that it is a requirement that this is notified to the public or either by letting folks know who are on the Section 8 wait list or on the website. So that's one of the other reasons why we have to notify. And then I'm going to let Amanda answer about the rapid housing question.
Sure. So in terms of the services funding side of things, this opportunity itself does not come along with funding to support ongoing case management. However, it does have funding to support a sort of shorter range of services that Homes for Good can support. We did bring this back to League and to our service provider group, and I think the concern is really more around capacity of service providers. We do have some ESG funding set aside that we have not been able yet to allocate to rapid rehousing that we proposed potentially using for services to support these vouchers. However, we have not, we've mostly heard from providers that they are not actually able to take on that level of case management, even with the funding that's available. So that's really the biggest concern. I think it just keeps coming back to this question of capacity of our providers is pretty strapped right now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for just saying that. It just feels to me like that is always the elephant in the room on all of these programs is how do we actually provide the support our providers in really providing the services that are needed. So with that, yeah, Commissioner Farr.
Thank you, Mayor Venus. Just a declaration, a potential conflict of interest, although I do not perceive an actual conflict of interest. I will vote on this. I am also Vice Chair of the Homes for Good Board of Directors.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. So I believe I need for someone to put a motion on the table, and I don't know, Danielle or Amanda, do you want to clarify what that should be a motion to state that we approve moving forward with this application? Is that what you need the motion to say?
Yes, we need a motion to move forward with the change in the coordinated entry process as well as the priority population.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved. So moved.
Thank you. And a second, whoever said so moved, can that be a second? Who said that?
I
got it.
I'm
Maureen
happy.
And a second from Julie. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All in favor, please raise.
I have a question.
Oh, quick question. Go for it, Julie.
You mentioned the change in the coordinated entry and the priority populations. Was there also an approval of the MOU with Homes for Good in this presentation too, or has that already been done?
Thank you. We are still having some minor changes to the MOU. These are the main pieces. So I think we primarily want to make sure that we can move forward with the coordinated entry pieces today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions, all in favor, please raise your hands or say aye.
Aye.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know if I've got how many people I've got voting. Somebody who knows the number of folks, and are there any opposed? All right, we'll assume that that's a large enough number to vote in favor, and it passes. Thank you very much for your report and for your work. And now let me load up the agenda again, which seems not to stay. Okay, our next item is Lisa Stewart, Data and Analytics for Lane County.
Hey everybody, this is Lisa. Can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm going to be really brief because we're running out of time. I do want to just, I'm going to send that link, got that done. I just want to update you on what is happening with the Data and Analytics team for Human Services Division. The first thing is that we are in the process of purchasing a fresh desk ticketing software that Melissa Coloma, who is the HMIS system admin, and Carly Taylor, who is the trainer, researched and submitted a concept paper on to Lane County. And the purchase was just recently approved. And what this tool will help us do, oh my goodness, will help us provide better customer services to the agencies who use WellSky HMIS to do business. And how we're going to be rolling it out is in the next few months, we'll be building out the resource library as we continue to provide technical assistance to our HMIS users. So that's pretty exciting. The other thing that we are doing is Lane County Technical Services Department has assigned at our request a business analyst to the data and analytics team, specifically to review HMIS functionality and capacity for Lane counties and the participating HMIS agencies' business needs. And the first few months we'll be having this analyst learn about HMIS data standards and specifications, as well as how we use HMIS on a daily basis and bigger picture reporting or system-wide reporting. Then we're hoping by next spring, or the plan is by next spring, that we will complete an evaluation of our HMIS system prior to the fall contract renewal date with WellSky. This is not about replacing WellSky. It is about making sure that the system we're using best matches and meets the needs of our community. So it is not like we're not trying to put the thread on WellSky, but we do want to have the best product. I did, in the chat, I did put the link to the new or the updated Tableau dashboards for Human Services Division, just as a reminder that it is new. And just point out a couple things. I'm not going to show up because you have the rolling trends reported in the homelessness dashboard are continued to indicate a lower number of people experiencing homelessness in previous years. But at this point, we don't really have enough information to understand the relationship between COVID-19 and homelessness, or the large amount of rent assistance that we have been able to provide through our division and the agencies providing those services, and whether or not that services help reduce the number of people who become newly homeless. in the housing inventory utilization dashboard, it is interesting to note that the lower barrier shelters are still being underutilized. In May 2019, we were utilizing those same projects at 88.5%. And currently it is around 55%. So we can't speak right now to why the utilization at shelters is lower, but it is interesting to note that the alternative shelter utilization is much higher. And just something to keep an eye out as we plan different kinds of responses to people experiencing homelessness, that this is happening. And again, I do not know, we don't have information that lets us know whether COVID-19 is part of that issue with the shelters. Hopefully, as time passes, we'll have a little more information that makes that clear.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question on that piece?
Please, thanks.
So for instance, on looking at the homeless shelter inventory under the low barrier shelters, like you just mentioned, I'm seeing that 55-ish%. So for instance, Eugene Mission Men's program, that 135, is that the capacity prior to COVID and then having to?
No, that's their current capacity. They've confirmed that their prior capacity was quite a bit higher.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you.
I have a question about this too. It'd be interesting to know. I don't know whether we're going to have a good way of tracking this, about whether the fact that we have relaxed our sort of restrictions on sleeping in tents and RVs throughout the city because of COVID, whether that has reduced the desire to go into some of those standard shelters. I'm just wondering if it feels, the data says there are fewer homeless, but it certainly doesn't feel that way as a community with the number of car camping and tent camping that's happening in the community. So there feels like such a disconnect between this data saying fewer numbers and the experience that we're having.
So that before all the new sanctioned camps, microsites and camps were set up, we still had a low utilization of the emergency shelters during this pandemic year. So again, I don't have data to speak to why, but that's what we can see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if I'm actually not even talking about the sanctioned sites. I'm talking about the unsanctioned sites the city is allowing to persist.
That's true. Yeah.
COVID. And so
and I would say that although the number appears to be lower than it's been in past years, it is still 3,200 people experiencing homelessness at any given time right now. And that is still way higher and an outsized number for a community of our size. So
and
that's a hard one to reconcile.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of information for us to glean as we move forward and do. I think as the city goes through this process in gradually resettling folks in these new sanctioned sleeping sites, we'll get, as we go forward, we get more and more information about, who's out there and what their needs are, and why they might or might not use other sheltering options. So, it's a little baffling, it's just, I think we all recognize this is just part of the story.
Yeah, it's such a complex situation. Yeah. Well, thanks for your time, everyone.
Thank you. And I guess I do, speaking of time, need to pay attention to time. So our next item is a committee and member updates. We, in some ways, did that with those introductions. So I don't know if there are specific things, maybe a quick report on membership and a report on the eviction moratorium. Not sure who's.
Thank you, Mayor Venice. Yes, the quick updates regarding membership is that the education and philanthropy representative positions are still open. The philanthropy position closes today at 5 and the education representative position closes tomorrow at 5. I'm going to email all members to see if you'd like to be on the membership committee to help us review those applications. So far, we have 3 applications for education rep and 2 for philanthropy. So it is going to be competitive.
Okay, that's great. And is there also an update on the eviction moratorium and rent assistance programs?
Well, look, rent assistance, Lane County will open our rent assistance application June 25th through the 28th, which is over a weekend. The Oregon Emergency Rent Assistance Program, so the statewide application, is open ongoing continually. And we are watching closely as the legislature determines if there are going to be additional relief for people with the eviction moratorium ending June 30th.
Thank you. And so I guess it's too soon to know sort of number-wise the number of folks that are needing that assistance and how many are actually accessing it.
It is very difficult to determine how many people really need the assistance. We have already, to date, we've served To date, we've served 2,600 households with rent assistance with $12.2 million.
Okay. Okay, well, okay, thank you. Brittany, you have a comment?
Oh, no, I did not. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and thank you, Alex. And that leaves us with just a few minutes for public comment. I don't know if there's anyone here. Don't see anything in the chat, but if there's someone here who wishes to comment, if you just make yourself known, I can open the floor to you. I'm not seeing any. So we'll go on. It looks like there's also on this agenda an opportunity for providers to share comments. And I don't know if there are any providers in the Zoom that have something to say that they didn't get a chance to share earlier. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone raise a hand. In fact, I'm looking at a darkened screens. So so I think we're limping to a close here. And I believe we are, I don't know if there are any other questions. We've moved forward on all the agenda items. I think we're probably ready to adjourn. Any other final comments, concerns? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.